Fantastic. So I hope you are all well this morning. So as I am gradually trying to build my technical skills, I'm going to see if I can also, via my phone, have a little look into the group and check some messages for people who are live so we can be a little bit more interactive. Okay. So I hope wherever you are that you are warm and comfortable. It's definitely freezing here in London, and I've got all my fluffy layers on to keep me warm. So I thought for January, because we're at the beginning of the year, it can be a nice time to set some goals. Um, so we can do a bit of planning and preparation so that hopefully by the end of the year, we're much more in a place of where we want to be. Okay, so I mean, goal setting, I have to confess, is something that I struggled with for a long time. I think I found it really hard to narrow in and be specific, and I'm interested in so many different things. And so the idea of finding a niche or focusing on one particular thing felt like I might be missing out on other opportunities, and it felt a bit too narrow, or even just a bit too restrictive. I think I really value my freedom. I think it's a big part of why I went self-employed in the first place. So though I know I had quite a lot of inner resistance, and perhaps I had some overall big goals, but they're not very specific strategies of how to get there. And so, yeah, over recent years, I've really seen for myself just how effective it is to be really specific on setting certain goals, and they can be long term and short term. We'll talk into that today. But I feel like it's made a huge difference for me. And that's why I wanted to share it with you as well. And it can be quite a straightforward thing to do. And I think from my own experience, I do know, yeah, how much resistance there can be, or how many questions there can be. So yeah, the why is a good place to start. Like, why are we thinking about setting goals at all? And there's lots of different reasons. I think initially, if we can connect in with our core purpose, um, and why is it we're practicing yoga? Why are we teaching? Um, what is it we wanted to achieve when we started this career? If there's some deeper core purpose that's aligned with who you are, with your needs, with your truths, with the way that you want to show up in the world, this can start to form the basis of your goals. And then when our goals are aligned with our core, then it keeps our whole business aligned with our core. So it's so easy to drift away from that unintentionally, because opportunities may come up. We might see other people doing things and they look really successful. So we think, oh, maybe I should do that. We may have a lot of different skills and abilities, but just because we can do things doesn't necessarily mean it's the right thing for us to do. And I know I did that a lot. An opportunity would come up for a class. And yeah, I had the skills to do it. And so it felt like, oh, well, there's a few people here who are asking for a class, and I've got the skills and I can make it fit in my schedule. And not really then thinking about the overall bigger picture, and was it working towards what I ultimately wanted? So in the short term, it seemed like a good idea, but as part of a big term, it was kind of diluting my energy and my focus and sort of taking me further away from what I was actually trying to achieve. You know, and all of this was quite subconscious at the time. And so I've been learning to, yeah, to say no to things. So when we've set goals, and we sort of maybe have our long-term goals and then some short-term goals to help us get there, then every opportunity that comes up, it then becomes quite an easy decision. Like, is this taking me closer to my goal or further away? And even if something is wonderful, there doesn't necessarily have to be anything wrong with, say, a work opportunity, you know, but it's making decisions that keep you going where you want to go. And so when we have a goal, it's so much easier then to make those decisions. You know, sometimes, you know, I know I've been caught in this real dilemma of, oh, I don't know, should I do this or should I do that? What's the right thing? And now I find it so much easier because I have much clearer goals. Um, and that even in the short term, a decision might feel challenging, you know, or risky, but if you know that it's keeping you on track, then it just makes decision making so much easier. I also think when we set goals, they're very much like affirmations as well. And so when we are really clear about what we want and what we want to achieve and a deadline that we want to achieve it by, not only does it really focus our energy and our awareness, I think then by sending that out into the universe, it is like an affirmation where on some level we can start to attract in the thing that we're looking for because we're ultra clear. You know, this message we're sending out to the universe is not confused or muddied or vague or contradictory. If you say, oh, I want this, but then, oh, I want that. So what you might attract then is confusing and contradictory things to your life. And also, I think when we're really focused on a goal, we're much more attuned to looking out for things or noticing things that is going to help us get there. So it does make your life easier. And I think the other thing as well is motivation. So, you know, we're all human and we all have ups and downs. And certainly, I think we're nearly all women in this group. You know, our energies can fluctuate a lot more than men. And so there's going to be times where we hit challenges, where we come across difficulties, where we kind of lose our energy and our inspiration, or we don't feel like it. But I think when we've set a goal and a deadline, it can give us that motivation. You know, I know it does for me with some of the admin tasks that I don't love, but they do need to be done. With those, with some of the jobs that we don't love, you think, no, but I need to get it done because it connects into the next thing, and that thing connects to the next thing. And all of those things are leading to getting, you know, meeting my deadline and meeting my goals so that, you know, I'm working towards the bigger picture. So those are all the reasons, you know, and I'm sure there are other reasons. You might have other reasons you can think of as well. And yeah, I say I used to have real blockages around doing it because I thought it would close down opportunities to be narrow. And I was much more, oh, I'm just going to see what the universe brings, and then that will show me the way. And I think there's a way of having a middle ground where I'm still very much go with the flow in that sense. You know, we can't control everything. There's actually very little we can control in life. But I think when we go with the flow with an awareness, and like I say, if we've got a goal that sets that intention as well, that when opportunities present themselves, we notice them more, and we might have missed them before. B, then when an opportunity comes up, we can make a decision more quickly. And I think, you know, if we're working with universal energy as well as our intellect, I think we can attract in the things that we're looking for as well. So it's not just an entirely mental process that's very sort of dry and clinical. It comes from a very core, very spiritual place, if that's where you work with, or just a really intuitive place. And then we use our intellect to help do the practical things that align our decisions and our actions with our soul purpose. So it's a marrying of the two. So as an example, so with the Yoga for Cancer Academy, my big goal is, you know, I had a vision of it being like a national training school for yoga for cancer, that there would be other teachers delivering courses, that we'd be connected with the NHS and getting yoga as part of standard cancer treatments. Like, that's the kind of big dream. But of course, that's not something that you can just make overnight. So having that as the long-term anchor, it's then breaking it down into steps, into, okay, well, what's required for that to be reality? What other things need to be in place first? And so breaking it down into smaller goals and having deadlines for those, and making sure that all the decisions I make are leading in that direction. So maybe in the connections I might seek out with other people, you know, all of those things. If I need other course tutors, well, then I need to be training people. You know, it's about building reputation, getting courses accredited, finding out, you know, all the official stuff that needs to be in place to have that kind of training school. So you see how you can have a big vision of what you would like, and then you can break it down to smaller steps. And I also every year set myself an income goal, and look at my diary and my timing and my prices, and then checking in every week, every month. And again, that can help me make decisions about what's aligned with my goal and what's not. So there are some classes that I've stopped running because the time and energy required wasn't getting the return, and it was much better to focus all my energy into fewer and make them more profitable. So there's lots of things like that. So, oh, and also, yes, just to say that I think my other block about having a goal was I felt like it was, I don't know, almost like a trap. It's like, oh, well, I've set this goal, and so now I have to. You know, we work for ourselves. There's never a have to. And you can set a goal, and then on your journey towards that, over time, you know, our circumstances change, our needs change, our obligations change, our kids get older. So as things change, you can change your goals. It's absolutely fine. You don't have to say, oh, well, this is it now, I've set my goal, I have to do this until I get there. You know, check in on a regular basis, that it's still the right thing for you. So we can evolve over time, and our goals can evolve over time. But it reminds me actually of when I went traveling in my 20s, is that you start with a plan, and you need to have a plan, otherwise I never would have left the country. So I make a plan and I book flights, but there was lots of space for freedom within that. And then sometimes plans change en route because you find out something that you didn't know at the beginning, and that changes the picture. So that's fine. But I think we need a goal to start moving in a direction. And if we start to change course a little bit from a very centered place where we're making decisions from the inside rather than being pulled around by the outside, then absolutely we stay in integrity with ourselves. Now, if you'd like to have a little practice now, grab a pen and paper. And whilst we're doing that, I'm just going to see if I can see myself in the Facebook group. There we go. No, it's not showing up for me. So I hope we're live in the group. So let's grab a pen and paper, and just I wanted to give you an example of how we might connect in with ourselves and maybe connect in with what our goals are. I think if we come from a headspace, then it's a chance that they're not going to be the right goals for us. Like, it might work on paper, but if it's not connected with our heart center, with our deeper selves, then we're not necessarily going to have the motivation to carry it through. It's not going to feel so aligned. It's less likely to work. So I'm going to invite you now, wherever you are, to get your feet on the floor. And I know it's cold, but if it's possible to have bare feet or socks, just so we're a little bit more grounded. I'm just going to pop my slippers off and get my feet on the floor here. So just really feel your feet on the floor. Allow the weight of the sit bones to drop down. Good. Take one hand to your belly, one hand to the heart center, and connect with your breath. Now take your awareness to those two centers, so our heart center and our womb space or our gut. And as you breathe in, feel the breath flow into the heart space. As you exhale, feel the breath flow, or your awareness flow down to the womb space or the gut. Inhale back to the heart. Exhale your awareness to the gut, to the womb, to your intuition. So moving your awareness between these two centers. And you may like to imagine or visualize a light or an energy or a color, some kind of flow between the two, as we're connecting our emotional center, our heart center, with our intuitive center. And keeping a small amount of awareness still in your feet, so you have that connection with the earth and feeling grounded and connected. And then if it's comfortable to close your eyes, do, or just find a spot to let your eyes softly rest on. So I'm just going to ask a few simple questions. And when something comes to mind, Just pick up your pen and write freely. We're not editing anything. It doesn't have to be perfect. Try not to think about it, but to feel what comes up spontaneously. And this is where we can connect with our deeper truths, and sometimes interesting or surprising things come up. Okay, so don't edit yourself. Just write what comes up. No one else is going to see it, and then we can work with it later. So the first question is, what are the areas in your life, in your work, that you feel may be lacking or you need to improve? There may be several, it may be one. So possibly around income levels, life balance, job satisfaction. Could be many things. So what areas do you feel need addressing? I'll just give you time to do that. And then the next question is there something that you really would love to achieve? Is there some ambition you have that really excites you, that really lights you up inside? Yes, I would love to be this kind of teacher. I would love to achieve a particular goal. Maybe you want to write a book or start a podcast or create a retreat. Is there something that you'd really love to do? Okay. Lovely. And the final question is, again, without thinking too much, just asking yourself, where do you want to see yourself? What's the picture that you would love to make real of yourself in 5 years' time? What would that look like? What would your life be like in all areas? Good. Again, just giving you some time to connect with that. Lovely. Okay, so this is recorded. You can come back in and do that again if you've not had enough time, or you weren't, maybe you're not in a place where you can write right now. So with what we have written down, you may have some bigger ideas, and then we can look at what I would encourage you to do is look at those areas that you want to improve. And those might be more of your short-term goals, like things that are problematic now. And maybe dig a little bit more into those to perhaps get some more specifics around there. So for example, if there was something around income, be really specific about what you would like to be earning for a year. And then what does that mean per month? What does that mean per class, per private, per workshop, per retreat? Like, get really specific so you can make decisions then about how you structure your work practically. If it is, for example, you feel like you need to get a bit more joy out of your work, a bit more job satisfaction, again, look into that a little bit more specifically and maybe do this process again just on that to get more detail around, what are the things that are bringing you joy? What are the things you need to let go of? So what do you need to do more of, and what can you let go of? And in the letting go, you're making space to do more of the stuff that you love. And again, this is where if we just make a head decision that a certain kind of class might be lucrative, but it's sucking your energy and not bringing you joy and it's stressful, it's not the ideal thing for you. So look at ways that you can get more job satisfaction and meet your income. It may be around life balance. So again, if you have a sense of there not being enough balance in your life, maybe again, do this process again and get more specific on that. And look at, what things do you need more of? What do you need less of? And then again, really specific goals around, set a deadline for when something's going to change. So if you are maybe deciding to drop one class, decide, which one and when, and then have a deadline around then also to do more marketing for the classes that you want to keep going. Maybe your systems are not working very well. Maybe you don't have great life balance because you do so much admin, because some of your systems are very long-winded and clunky. So again, set yourself a deadline to research automating some things. So you see how when we have a bigger goal to achieve, then get very specific and give yourself a deadline, and then you can tick it off and things really start to change. And so it's the same process then for the things that if there was something that came up of, oh, I really want to do this, and I guess that taps into the job satisfaction and the joy. Oh, I've always wanted to run retreats and somehow I've never had time, I've never got round to it. Decide to do one and then break down all the steps that you need in order for that to be a reality, and give yourself deadlines. So if you want to run a retreat, say of the summer 2025, gives you loads of time. You might have time to run one this summer or this autumn, or in the winter, it could be a winter sunshine retreat. Choose a date. You then need to find a venue. You need to decide the content. You need to find out about transport. You need to start generating interest. You need to find out what your costs are so you can set a price. That means you don't run at a loss. So this thing of wishing and being a little bit vague often is not going to bring what you want. And these things can be scary to say, I'm committing to doing this thing. But if it's really in your heart what you want, then why not give it a go? And then lastly, we looked at that 5-year projection. And again, this can sometimes be a useful thing to look long distance and think about, well, where would I want to be in the long run? Are there things I need to start doing now to prepare for long term? So for me, I think I'm now 51. And so thinking ahead to my own semi-retirement, I think I don't want to stop doing what I'm doing, but looking at how I work now and thinking, can I continue to work at this intensity and pace in 10 years' time? You know, in 20 years' time? No, I don't think I want to be lugging loads of equipment around well into my 60s. So I need to change. I will need my work to be different then, and that doesn't happen overnight. So making long-term plans now that gradually create a business that allows me to work differently, and I can do that gradually over a long period of time. And in the interim, still focus on the other goals that I want to do. So sometimes looking far ahead can just help you make that preparation now for what you want in the long term. And again, if if long term you want to pay off your mortgage so that you can have a different kind of lifestyle, or if you're much younger you might be trying to get a mortgage, well then these are long term plans of savings and earnings, and thinking about your overall lifestyle. um because I did for years sort of have dreams of what I wanted, but never really took the right kind of concrete action to get there. And when I started doing that, things changed so much. So that's why I'm now quite passionate about this way of working, because I think it's something that you'll find useful as well. So I hope that's given you lots of food for thought. I say this is going to stay in the feed. So if you want to come back and re-watch and go through those exercises again, then do. Or if you have your own way of getting into that connection with your inner self and doing some free flow writing about what comes up for you, and then, so there we come from a heart and an intuitive space of what are the things that we want. And then we can use our smarts, our head space to do the technical fact finding, organizing, setting up systems. All of that is what our head is really good for. But choosing the direction and choosing the goal, for me, it feels much better to do that from a heart-centered space, from an intuitive space, so that you're aligned with whatever your kind of soul purpose or your happiness or your truth or whatever resonates for you is. So I would love to hear how you get on with this process. So do come back in and put some comments under the video. Or if you're doing this live right now, I would love to just hear a few words of how this process is for you. And perhaps we can come back to this in a few months' time and check in again and see how things are going and what needs tweaking and what's been achieved so far. So I'm going to wish you a very lovely rest of the day. Keep warm if you're in the UK, because it's freezing here. And I'll look forward to seeing you next week. All right. Have a lovely day. Bye-bye.